Last season, the 76ers went 43-30. They got the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, and their season ended in the first round, being eliminated by the Boston Celtics. Their top performers were Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Tobias Harris, and their more interesting player is Matisse Thybulle. Ben Simmons put up 16.5 points per game, 8 assists per game, 7 rebounds, 2 steals on 58% from the field. Ben is an elite finisher. 63.8% of his field goal attempts came from 0 to 3 feet, and he converted at a 71.9% clip. That's insane for a point guard. Even though Ben is 6'10", 6'11", he's still technically a point guard, and that is still an insane rate. It's an unfair combination of speed, size, and handle that allows Ben to get to the rim. Ben's also a great playmaker, especially in the fast break. And over the past couple of years, Ben Simmons has emerged as an elite defender, and especially last year. Because last year, he was definitely in Defensive Player of the Year conversations, and he definitely has that type of potential going forward for the remainder of his career, because he is in that elite category of players that can guard 1 through 5. He can guard all of those positions pretty comfortably because of his athletic tools and gifts. When looking at half-court offense for Ben, this is where things turn a bit bleak. Especially in Philly last season, where spacing was just a nightmare. In the half-court, Ben's offensive game is a bit limited because he can't shoot anything. He doesn't shoot threes. For that reason, Ben Simmons provides no spacing. He's not going to catch and shoot from 3 consistently, and he doesn't do it from mid-range either. This is also something that kills the pick and roll between the 2 best players on the team, Ben Simmons and Embiid. You can't really run that action because both defenders will just simply drop, and both defenders will contest the paint. If it's a pick and roll, you don't have to worry about a Ben pull up from mid-range, and you just have to form a wall in front of the rolling Embiid. So in the half-court setting, Ben Simmons is mainly just a dunker spot guy off the ball. And all of the above said things were amplified by having Al Horford at center. So a lot of that should be alleviated a bit this year because he's off the team. Joel Embiid put up 23 points per game, 11.5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.3 blocks on 48% from the field and 37% from 3 on 3.4 attempts per game. Joel Embiid is an elite offensive talent. I'd say he is a top 3 offensive big. He's one of the best players in the post, and he can handle the ball very well for a center. We see that when he attacks closeouts, when he does a pick and pop. He can attack those closeouts and get by the closing defender. So he can bang in the low post, score at a high rate, he can drive from the perimeter, and he can shoot threes very well for a center. Wait, did I say that right? 36.7% from 3? That seems a bit high. I don't think it was that. I think that's a typo. Hang on. No, that was his rookie year. Apologies. That was his rookie year. This year he shot 33.1% from 3, which yes is below league average, but it's still a pretty good rate for a center in the league, and especially a center who's dangerous down low. Joel Embiid is also an elite defender when he's engaged and locked in, because when he is engaged and locked in, this is somebody who has Defensive Player of the Year potential. He's an elite rim protector, he's good on switches, and he's a great low post defender. But when he's not engaged, he's only a good defensive center. Good rim protector, average on switches, and sometimes lazy to get to closeouts. That's the thing with Joel Embiid. His motor goes on and off. Sometimes he's looking like the next coming of Hakeem Olajuwon, looking like a future MVP, and then other times he simply looks like an all-star reserve. He can never really string together 3 months of elite play, and that's really the criteria for being an elite all-NBA first team type of caliber of player, which Joel Embiid has the potential to be, but he doesn't have the consistency to turn that into a reality. And then the Ben Simmons thing, I already talked about it. When I was talking about Ben Simmons, it should get better with Horford gone. Tobias Harris put up 20 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists on 47% from the field, and 37% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. He's a good all-around scorer, maybe even a great all-around scorer. He shot a good 3-point percentage on a high clip, and this was kind of a down year because in his recent years, his days in LA on the Clippers, he was shooting around 40% from 3, so 37% from 3 is still a good percentage on a high clip, but this was a down year for Tobias Harris, which says a lot about him. He's also good in the short mid-range. He shot 48.2% from the field at 3 to 10 feet and 46.7% from the field at 10 to 16 feet, and he's a good finisher, converting 66.2% of his attempts from 0 to 3 feet. He's also turned into a solid playmaker. He has an assist to turnover ratio above 2, but on the defensive end, this is where it gets kind of bleak for Tobias. He's an alright team defender. He knows what he's doing out on the court, but his on-ball defense is a bit rough. He gets exploited on the perimeter simply because he's not laterally quick, so when he has to guard small forwards, he just gets burned a lot. And that was the case last season because Al Horford was playing the 4. He's an alright defender in the post though against power forwards. So this was a major reason why the Al Horford fit was bad. So his defense should be better with him going back to the 4. Matisse Thybulle averaged 5 points per game, 42% from the field, 36% from 3 on 2.4 attempts. He's a great on-ball defender. He's very disruptive. I think he's a better disruptive defender than simply just a guy who stays in front of the opposition. He's more of a guy who's gonna get a lot of passing lane steals, knockout steals. When you do get by him, he's able to knock the ball out from behind. He's just very disruptive. Per 100, he got 3.5 steals per game and 1.8 blocks. Thybulle's got the potential to be somebody who can guard 1 through 3. He's got good size to guard anybody on the perimeter, and he has potential to be a great 3-and-D player if he can get that 3-point shot down. He did shoot 35.7% from 3 last year, which was around league average, but the 61% from the free throw line gives me cause for concern. If he improves his shot from 3, then he is the ideal role-playing wing. The 76ers had a pretty busy off-season. On the trade market, they traded away Josh Richardson for Seth Curry. This was a necessary trade because Philly doesn't need much defense, or as much defense as they had, because they have Embiid and Simmons, who are 2 players that have a defensive player of the year potential, and they're on the court at the same time, so you don't need an additional great. It's always good to have more defense, but it's not entirely necessary to have another great defender in Josh Richardson. And then considering this is a team that has many other needs, particularly shooting, getting Seth Curry is a dub of a trade for Philly. And they also traded away Al Horford, what I've been alluding to this entire video. They traded him away for Danny Green, Harris Ferguson, yeah, and that's it. And they traded away Al Horford and the pick that became Teo Maledon and their first round pick in 2025. Another amazing trade by Daryl Morey, the new GM. He was able to get off the Al Horford contract by only giving up 1 first round pick and 1 second round pick, and he got back a 3-and-D wing in Danny Green. There's been hella memes about Danny Green over the past 3 months. Danny Red, just to name one. But memes aside, Danny Green is still a good shooter. He shot 36% from 3 for LA last regular season, which is about league average. So if he can do that, maybe a bit better, then that's a great addition. And you got that for Al Horford, somebody you wanted off of your team anyway. In the draft, they took Tyrese Maxey at 21 and Paul Reed at 58. Tyrese Maxey is a score-first, speedy guard. You need more young shot creators in your backcourt, off the bench particularly for Philly. So you get that in Tyrese Maxey. And in terms of Paul Reed, I don't know much about him. In free agency, their main signing was bringing in Dwight Howard, who is going to be a backup center for them, obviously. He's one of the best backup centers in the game. I don't think that is debatable, and this is pretty good insurance for if Embiid gets injured. Looking at the depth chart at the guard positions, they have Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Shake Milton, and Furkan Korkmaz. At the forward positions, they have Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Matisse Thybulle, and Mike Scott. And at the center positions, they have Embiid and Dwight Howard. Coaching them is Doc Rivers. Just hired him after firing Brett Brown, and after Doc Rivers was fired by the Clippers, they brought in Doc. He has quite a bit to prove. Paul George was blaming Doc Rivers for the Clippers' woes, leaving the Clippers where he was there for 6 or 7 years and didn't accomplish much. He just blew a 3-1 lead. So Doc Rivers has a lot to prove in Philly. Next season, the starting lineup should look like Ben Simmons at the point, Seth Curry at the 2, Danny Green at the small forward, Tobias Harris at the 4, and Embiid at the center position. I estimate their record to be 45 and 27. I think Philly is definitely going to be really good this year, way better than they were last year. Assuming health, I know health is not something you assume, but if they can stay reasonably healthy, I think Philly's going to be really good in the East. I think they're going to be a 4 seed in the East, 2 seed improvement from last year, just because the team fits each other very well now. You did not need all that defense and Josh Richardson on the perimeter. You add a shooter. You didn't need to be as big as you were with Al Horford at the 4. Get rid of him. You move Tobias Harris back to the 4. That adds more spacing, easier for Joel Embiid to work down low, easier or more lanes for Ben Simmons to drive to or drive through. Yeah, it just makes offense a lot easier for Philly, and offense was hard to come by a lot of times for them last season. So I think they'll get farther in the playoffs than they got last year. I think they'll get to the second round, and I think they will be eliminated there. This team is definitely contending though, and they definitely have to contend. They have 2 top 20 players entering their prime now. They're on a better fitting team. It's now or never for them to at least make an Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think they're going to make it there, but that's what they need to be shooting for, because over the past 3 years they haven't gotten there. They got killed by that Kawhi shot in 2019. In 2020 they got Al Horford on the team, and Ben Simmons got injured in the bubble, and they were a 6 seed. And then before that they got bounced in the first round, I think 1 or 2 times. So it's time for the Sixers team to start going farther in the playoffs. I think they need to shoot for the Eastern Conference Finals at least, because if not, I think Morey might actually trade one of the dynamic duo of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, or at least he'll entertain more offers, because we know he's not afraid of making those big time moves. The Al Horford experiment did not work in Philly. Though Al is a good shooting big, he's not a threatening enough shooter to be on the same court as Ben and Joel. In trading him, the Sixers got a threat from downtown in Danny Green and slid Tobias Harris back to the 4. Now surrounding the young inside pair, there is a plethora of snipers. Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Matisse Thybulle, if he can be more consistent, Furkan Korkmaz, and Seth Curry. With a better fitting team, I think Embiid, Simmons, and Harris and the rest of the Sixers are ready to bounce back from the turbulence of last year.